am Sue Borison with Your Teen Media, and today I am here with Ned Johnson, founder of PrepMatters and author of The Self-Driven Child. Ned, you came to my attention in Paul Tuff's book about the years that matter, where he discusses your very successful tutoring company. And I was thinking that parents of juniors in particular are probably more stressed out than they've ever been, as are their kids. And so I'm going to start with the question, what are you up to these days?
I'm spending too much time on Zoom, and I'd love to have this conversation with you, but goodness, I'm still, fortunately for me and probably, and hopefully for the kids with whom I'm working, still doing Skype or Zoom tutoring and way too many staff meetings by Zoom. So we're all safe that way, but it's harder, right? I mean, I think after this is all done, we're going to appreciate face-to-face interactions and hugs and crowded restaurants more than we ever did. We'll never complain about those things again, I hope.
Yeah. My first question to you is, when you think about the questions that you're getting right now from parents of juniors, how's that changed since COVID?
Well, I mean, for everyone, these are uncharted waters, right? These are unpredictable times, and it's hard to figure out exactly where does this all take us. In the book that my friend and I wrote, Bill Stickser, who's a clinical neuropsychologist, we lean into a woman named Sonia Lupian, who's a neuroscientist, and she has this acronym of what makes people nuts. Okay, so N is novelty, U is unpredictability, T is perceived threat, and S is a low sense of control. And goodness, if a global pandemic virus, or if applying to college during a global pandemic virus doesn't hit all those, I don't know what does. And so in many ways, what we're trying to do is help the kids and families feel more sense of control, but ultimately not allowing them to try to feel a sense of control over something they cannot control. It's a little bit like the serenity prayer, right? That if we feel like we're responsible for something where we have no control, it's absolutely crazy making. So we want to really lean on the things we can lower our stress with by feeling in control of, and knowing what we don't worry about or we don't worry about now. So with all this test prep stuff, well, what are they going to do with tests? Well, nobody really knows. But the reality is that everyone who's involved in the college admissions process, from parents to teens to college admissions people, want kids to go to college. And that's still going to happen. It's just going to be a little topsy-turvy compared to what was done in years past. So we expect that deadlines will be extended. We expect that colleges will be a lot more test score optional. So they'll lean into the things that kids have and kind of let go of the things that they don't have, right? Because if you don't get a chance to take the SAT, well, we're going to have to look at the grades that you have. If you don't have a fourth quarter grades, you know what we're going to do? We're going to look at third quarter grades. I could be completely wrong in this, but my expectation is that colleges want kids to come and parents want kids to go to college, and goodness knows kids want to go to college, because as much as they love their parents, if being locked up with your folks for the next 6 weeks or 6 months doesn't launch people out of the basement off to college, I don't know what will.
When we focus on juniors, one of the things that we started seeing happening is that schools are announcing test optional.
Right.
So you're in the business of test prep.
Right.
What are you telling your families, that not all schools are going to go test optional, that be ready in case?
Well, I think the more options people have, the better. The majority of schools that are test score optional still accept and even want scores. It's not this that we never want to pay attention to scores. It's that if you're a kid who really shines in every way except for these infernal exams, let's look at everything else except for a test score. For kids who do really well on this test, I think they want to keep working hard to prepare and look for the next opportunity to take the test, because it's another piece of data that can help support their admissions to this or that college. So I think it would be a mistake for people to just sort of forget altogether standardized tests, because I don't think the colleges will. Again, I think they're going to bend to be more flexible for all the reasons that are appropriate. But if kids know that they can really do well on these tests, I think they should keep doing all the practice they're doing and take the test when they have the opportunity to do that. In part because it helps a lot to do something. I mean, sitting around and doing nothing, very quickly, I think people are going to get to the end of the Netflix that they feel like binge watching and feeling like you're just like you're just, on hold, treading water is tough. I think when people feel like they're doing something to advance their goals, then that puts them in a better place.
Well, I love the other thing you said. If you are in a position to take the test, it's just one more piece of data for the colleges. So looking at this as like you're off the hook would be the same thing as saying, well, I didn't need to take that class because it wasn't mandatory. So we have a lot of things that aren't mandatory, but even optional, we can still go ahead and say, I want to keep moving forward with this. So that's a great point, because I think what I'm seeing in our feed and in personal conversations is people going, phew, it's
Yeah.
test optional. Whereas it could be an opportunity for some people to, if they really shine on those tests, to stand out.
Well, yeah, and even when I have kids with whom I do test prep, if I feel that they're really anxious about these tests, if they feel like they're not going to do well, and they feel that this is going to keep them from getting into college, I immediately run over to fairtest.org and look at the 1,000+ colleges that are test score optional. So that they look at Chicago and GW and Bates and Bowdoin, and all these wonderful places that are test score optional, and they realize, wait, I don't have to take this test. It actually makes them want to. And we know that the majority of mental health is changing thinking from I have to I want to. Because when you feel like I have to, particularly if I have to but I can't, there's no more perfect recipe for stress than that. I have a kid I just worked with they're twin sisters, fraternal, and one of whom is much more sort of academic than the other, and the kind of less academic one, who's this very sensitive soul. She's an artist. She's got synesthesia of all things. That's kind of cool, right? She's anxious. She's depressed, and maybe 2 or 3 weeks into this process, she asked me. She says, "Do I have to take this test?" And I looked and said, no, not at all. I said, but I want you to, and here's why. Because we know that the principal manifestation of anxiety is avoidance. And so we tend to avoid all the things that makes us anxious. We're avoiding public spaces, and that's fine. It's just that when people have an anxious mind, if they constantly avoid the things that make them stressed, the world in which they feel safe to operate gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And so I explained this to her, and she knows this, but I just reminded her. I said, this stupid SAT, this is the perfect thing for you, because your grades are already strong enough. The schools that you're looking at have kind of strong academic requirements, the very low test score act, and you're already at the level that you need to be. So you could stop now and you're great. But and I know that you can do a whole lot better. So this is the best opportunity in the world to go up there, and it's home run derby, and work your keister off and see if you can get a great score. And if you don't, you're still going to college. So she moved her ACT score from a 23 to a 30. I was so happy to have a score that starts with a 3. And the biggest chunk of that was making her feel safe. Making her feel safe, that you can want to, and let's work really hard at this, but you don't have to. And so during these uncertain times of anxious times, it's so natural for us as parents to try to protect kids. But ultimately, the way that we rewire brains to be able to go off in the real world and be tolerant of stress and resilient to difficulty is allow them to try to handle things with our support as much as they can. I mean, that's the kind of whole idea behind our book is don't do for kids things that they can do for themselves. Be there to help them, encourage them all the way, but try not to abet their avoiding things that they can actually tolerate.
But if we don't have a Ned Johnson, or we're not in a position to hire somebody, what are your best recommendations for people who are listening to this now?
So best recommendations for preparing for tests, for talking to kids, what part?
Well, let's start with tests.
Okay. I mean, the best thing to start with in terms of prep for practice tests, there are wonderful resources out there. I mean, Paul talks, of course, about the Khan Academy, which has wonderful resources there. I think that the interpersonal connection there isn't as strong as if you're working with someone like me or mom or dad or teacher who knows things. If I were doing it, and if I had a group of kids who weren't, were at home and they have adequate time on their hands, but we have more time than resources, goodness, I would try to figure out a way to put together, kind of the Zoom equivalent of group test prep. Actually, our group, I'll send you this email, Sue. Our group is starting this week a whole bunch of free sort of online classes for how to write college essays, how to start your resume, ACT prep, SAT prep, AP, bunch of AP exams. And we're not the only ones who are doing this, to try to make resources available for kids who don't have either who aren't close enough to me or don't have the money to afford the likes of me. So I would try to get books. There's so much stuff on the internet, and ask kids to play around. Do you like this or do you like that? Don't make them do it, but try to give them the choices there, because it doesn't always seem like it, but I think it helps to remind ourselves that our kids also want to be successful and they want their lives to work out. And as much as they love us, my hunch is that doesn't involve sitting in our basement for the rest of their lives. So I would try to get options out there. And for us, we always talk about trying not to force advice on kids or force help on kids, but say, would it help you? Would you like it if? Because when you get buy-in, then it's kid directed, not parent directed.
So can you tell when a kid has been forced into your office by the parent and they're resistant to being there?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, and what we say to all the time is that, look, no one can make you do this. I can't make you do this. And I'll say to kids, as soon as I've had the conversation and sort of make mom and dad feel like they're on their side, as soon as they close the door, I say, look, I work for you. I don't work for your mom and dad. I will tell them the truth if they ask, but I won't volunteer anything that you don't want me to volunteer. I work for you up until the point that they fire me, in which case, well, okay, this has been a fun adventure. I've never been fired for doing that, because, ultimately we want kids. Here's the thing for me, both for these tests and for school. We all want our kids to work hard, but fundamentally, this is much more important. We want our kids to want to work hard. And so I just don't know very many people who like to be told what to do, starting with myself and ending with my kids and everyone else's kids in between. And so I'm always trying to figure out how to get buy-in, because there's nothing that I can say that's going to give a kid a reason why he has to do it, that's going to have the same impact on him as his really wanting to do this himself. And so for all of us as parents, when we lean in too hard on kids, we can make them do it short term, but when we make all these extrinsic motivators, we blow up the intrinsic motivator, and that's a terrible thing to do to a kid.
Okay, that is such good advice. You mentioned APs. So I believe they're going online now for most schools,
Yep.
right?
Yep, they're going there. There's going to be a 45-minute test, only free response, no multiple choice.
Oh, so do you have a limited amount of time to take it? Is it the
Correct. As I understand it, the College Board just dropped this on Friday, so people can make their way over to collegeboard.org and take a look at this. As I understand it, they're going to be 45-minute online classes, and it's free response. And I suspect that this is partly so that they don't have to, it gives them time to vet questions, to figure out how they're going to score it, where there's a huge amount of work for College Board or ACT to figure out this many questions, which right, how do we get the curve right? When it's free response, they can administer the test and then figure out the curve a little bit, give themselves more time to figure out that curve. I suspect it also has the intended effect of making it impossible to cheat, because there was multiple choice and everything there, oh, it's B, truth, B, right? Where if you have to write your own answer, not so much.
It sounds to me when I'm talking to you like business as usual. I mean, obviously we're using Zoom instead of face-to-face, but that you would encourage juniors to move forward as if the world is going to recalibrate and they're going to be applying to college in the fall.
Correct. I mean, keep calm and study on, or something like that, right? I mean, and that's hard. But yeah, I want people to be very compassionate with themselves. I want them to be flexible and recognize it may be hard for me to do my best work today or this week or next week, particularly if mom lost a job, dad lost a job. There are all kinds of stressors, but as much as we can, we want to keep working hard at things that matter to us. Now, for some people, that may not be these crazy tests or school, and I get that. But if those are things that do matter to you, you want to try to figure out how do I keep working hard at these, because you've got junior year, you're going to have senior year. I'm not sure what that's going to look like, but I suspect you're going to get back to school. And at some point, many of the kids whose parents are listening to this are going to want to go to college. And it doesn't really matter what happens on any given day. It really doesn't. What's the great Aristotelian quote? We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act, but a habit. And so it's what we do day after day after day. And so if you really goof it up today and do nothing but play Fortnite, it's fine. It's fine. But over the next week and over the next month and over the next semester, you want to be working hard at the things that develop you and develop your choices for college. So that's my advice for folks. I mean, I sure hope that these tests come back online, because working for 6 months for some standardized exam is a really dreary experience. I like to have kids take the test, get the scores back, take it again, take it again. And because that feedback is good, but also the experience of taking the test makes the next test a little bit less stressful, a little bit less stressful. Everybody wants to get back to life as much as we can. We obviously need to do this in ways to keep all of us as safe as we can be. But I'm sure that both schools and testing organizations and colleges are people much more clever than I are thinking about ways to make this work. Because goodness, you don't want the entire class of 2021 not going to college and starting as freshmen at the same time as the class of 2022.
Yeah,
that's hard.
Yeah. So can you give me one parting piece of advice that you want parents to take away from this conversation?
Yeah, it's something that people have heard a lot about, trying to be a non-anxious presence. I mean, Lisa D'Amour has written about this a lot in the New York Times. We have an entire chapter in her book called A Non-Anxious Presence. And we got this term, we borrowed it from a guy named Edwin Freeman, who was a consultant. He was a rabbi. He worked with schools and families as a therapist. And he made the point that things work much better when the person or people who are in charge are not overly reactive, aren't overly emotional, in part because at a brain level, there's the prefrontal cortex where our decision-making, our problem-solving, the part of our brain that allows us to put things in perspective. And the very primitive part of our brain called the amygdala that simply perceives and reacts to threat. And when this part fires, our problem solving ability goes completely haywire, right? And this is where everybody needs to buy 14,000 rolls of toilet paper and 17 guns, right? And start building a bunker, which is and I don't mean to chime people who are doing that, but that's not the only solution to this process. That's not what everyone needs to be doing. And so we all do a much better job of putting things in perspective when we're not overly amped up. So we want to be rested, we want to exercise, all those things. But also, if someone in a family unit, if someone in an office is much more calm during a crisis, it helps the other people to be more calm during a crisis. So I wrote a really quick piece for the Washington Post about the whole college admissions process with juniors. It's terrible from start to finish, because as parents, generally there's very little that we can do. We can offer to proof of paper, we can sign them up for an overpriced tutor, but most of the work is not ours. Most of our work is sitting on our hands and encouraging our kids and doing one of these, and that's hard work. And so whether it's through college admissions,
can I ask you to clarify when you say encourage our kids? Because on the one hand, you want us to back away.
Right.
You say encourage our kids. So that's a really fine line. That's hard.
Yeah. So, well, thank you. It's a really good point. And so here's my advice on this. Every time I'm at a school, and there are people who know the work that I do, the parent will come to me and say, I was telling my kid to do this and this and this, and she just won't listen. And then the parent goes on and explains in excruciating detail what she said or he said to this kid, looking for validation, like, isn't that right? And when they're done with it, I'll sit there and I'll say, may I offer you some advice? And they say, sure. And I say, you say to your kid, may I offer you some advice? Because what happens when we go back to that nuts, the low sense of control, when that goes off, so does this part of our brain. And so when you say to this kid, may I offer you some advice? It's respectful, which is part of what we're trying to model that for them. It gives them a sense of control, and it makes it much more likely that they listen to the advice that we have to say. We've all had the experience of trying to give people advice that feels really important, and they don't want to hear it. Partly just it's the how, not the what. And then they get upset. And when they get upset, we get more intense, and we're back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And so much of the work, what I do as a tutor, is to try to be less anxious. And I offer kids advice. I don't ram it down their throat. Would you like some help with that? No, I got it. Okay, if you change your mind, let me know. And that is better for them to raise an adult, as Julie Lithcott-Hames would say, but it also lowers our stress, because where I started, if we feel like it's our job to get our kids to do something, that is a terrible position, not just for them, but for us. Because if your kid fundamentally didn't want to do it, they could lie flat on the ground, right, and close their eyes and go la 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 and never do it, or they could go nuts and run out into the closest grocery store and start licking every doorknob, right? We couldn't actually stop them, right? And so we're trying to launch adults. We're trying to get buy-in. We're trying to have them hear our really good advice because we have a longer perspective on all this than do they. And the easiest way to do this is you offer advice, you offer help, but you do it as an offer, not a force, because that lowers their control, that lowers their stress reaction, ideally lowers our sense, and then we're working collaboratively. And as your other earlier, I forget her name, said, kids don't feel like we're doing things to them; it feels like we're doing things with them.
That is such a great way to end, and really fantastic advice. Thank you so much, Ned Johnson, for your time.
Well, thanks, Sue, for your work. This is wonderful. We can all use a little more wisdom and ideally some humor as we get through all this.